Johnny Depp is back as the unpredictable pirate Captain Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. I'll give you my opinion on whether this movie is worth seeing or not. First, you guys know what to do. Go ahead and leave your comments or your thoughts about it.
It's a great movie because it goes back and forth with the family conflict.
The dance that he did, it was a little bit racist.
I don't
the way she
agree
was
with
looking
you.
at him and all
I
that.
don't agree with you at all. Hi, welcome to R&B Reviews, where we try to give honest reviews for movies that are in theaters as well as out on DVD. I'm Rob, and Pirates of the Caribbean continues this summer of prequels and sequels. The story is Captain Jack Sparrow is back when he is shanghaied on Captain Blackbeard's ship by a woman from his past, played by Penelope Cruz. Captain Blackbeard is looking for the Fountain of Youth because a one-legged pirate is after him and he wants to survive. Meanwhile, Captain Barbossa, played by Geoffrey Rush, is on Captain Blackbeard's trail to get revenge for a recent encounter. Personally, I think the series is starting to kind of run out of steam a little bit. I mean, I give the filmmakers credit for trying to do something different this time. For example, they got brought in a different director, Rob Marshall, and of course they got Penelope Cruz as the love interest in this film, and of course Ian McShane as Captain Blackbeard is the main villain in this film. But also there's no Orlando Bloom or Keira Knightley. In a nutshell, I think with the Pirate series I think the first one was the best, even though it had its flaws, especially with the story or character consistency. It was definitely a fun action film. The second movie I thought had a good story, but I felt like it was just paced so slowly and it dragged. And the third one was a much better paced film, but the story because there was so much going on, it got confusing after a while. But with this Pirates movie, to me it's like a combination of the second and third film. It's either too fast or it's just too slowly paced at times. Johnny Depp brings his usual sense of comedy to the role of Captain Jack Sparrow, although sometimes I felt like he was just going through the motions, and I felt that Sparrow had less funny lines of dialogue here than in the previous films. Sparrow seems to be able to do grander stunt work here than in the previous films, like dangling from ropes in between buildings and jumping from carriage to carriage. Something I could imagine Orlando Bloom's character doing more of, and with the stunt work. Sparrow to me was just not in the previous films, to me, he just wasn't the most athletic, stunt person. But the beginning of the film, to me, felt more like fast action scenes strung together with very little plot. I mean, on the one hand, I thought it reminded me of the good old Errol Flynn 1930s, 1940s action films like Robin Hood and Captain Blood, and Marshall brings more dramatic and swift camera angles, adding to the thrills for those scenes. But on the other hand, after a while, I just got tired of them, and I just wanted to see more with the characters. Penelope Cruz I thought was fine as the woman who loves and hates Sparrow, but I really didn't see much chemistry between the two of them except for when they're, given amusing arguments at different points of the film. I kind of saw more chemistry between some of the secondary characters more. Like there's a missionary that's on Blackbeard's ship, and I could see moral chemistry between him and a mermaid that Blackbeard captures. But the best acting for me was from Ian McShane as Captain Blackbeard. He brought a sort of creepiness to the part, and he brought more of a threatening presence to his role. But when we got to the last act of the movie, when they are looking for the fountain, I felt like those segments could have been much more thrilling, like the beginning of the film. Like maybe have traps set so that, to keep people from trying to get to the fountain, make it a little bit more interesting. Instead, everybody's walking and talking, and I just didn't find it to be interesting as a result. I mean, the beginning of the movie, there's all these great, even though a little too much action scenes, but when we get to the last act on the island, it felt like they were just walking and talking. There was just nothing going on. I mean, there were some good attempts they could have done with that. Like, for example, there's a scene where Penelope Cruz picks up a poisonous snake and kind of teases Johnny Depp. What if somebody got bit by a poisonous snake? Or there's a scene where Captain Barbossa and the British Navy is also on... Well, he's working for the British Navy now. He's no longer a pirate, but he's on the island too, trying to get after Blackbeard and trying to get to the fountain himself. And he's got the Navy with him, and there's this deadly bug that gets on one of the Navy officers, and he plucks it off. What if again, what if somebody got bit from that? You know, we could have got something interesting, you know, traps or all these dangerous things that are on the island. You know, it's a wasted opportunity. You know, they could have done something with that. But as a result, I felt like that part of the film was a little bit more slowly paced and maybe a tad bit more boring as a result. I think the sets for the movie, especially when it's in the beginning of the film where it's set in London, as well as later in the film when it's on the island, these two looked really, really good to look at, and they looked real nice, and I enjoyed that. This film, it's not as good as the first film. I definitely think it could have been better. I think perhaps fans of the pirate films will probably get into it perhaps a little bit more than the casual moviegoers. But to me, I give this movie a rent it on DVD verdict. It's got some pluses, but I felt like, you know, it could have been even better, but you know. That's my review for Pirates of the Caribbean 4. Go ahead and leave any comments you have about the movie if you have seen it, or about this video. I greatly appreciate it. And now here's a look at movies that are still playing in theaters that we have reviewed on R&B Reviews. I gave Rio a see it in theaters verdict. I thought it was a colorful, funny movie that could be equally enjoyed by kids, teens, and adults. Dave and I both gave Thor a see it in theaters verdict. We both liked the look of Thor's superb world of Asgard, but we felt Earth was kind of bland in comparison. We both agreed that the special effects are best enjoyed on the big screen, and we both enjoyed the over-top acting of Chris Hemsworth and Anthony Hopkins, which we felt suited the characters. I think the flaw with the film is the action scenes and Thor going through a change of heart of cockiness to caring a little too quickly. And finally, Dave and I split on Priest. Dave gave it a rented on DVD verdict. He liked the action scenes, but he felt there were too many characters to keep track of and the script was convoluted, and he also felt that the acting was not up to par. He also recommended not seeing this movie in 3D if you choose to go see it in the theaters. I gave it a snuff it verdict. I liked the look and the special effects as well as the religious metaphors, but the script was not good. I mean, I felt no reason to care for the leading characters and the acting was just flat to me. Well, that's it for R&B Reviews. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time on R&B Reviews.